The red pill represents the truth, this painful truth. The truth, it's harsh a lot of times and lies suits. Hi everyone, thank you so much if you opened this video. Thank you so much if you gave my channel a chance. Today we're gonna have like two in one. We're gonna talk about something that is not controversial at all, especially online. Religion. Yeah, I'm being ironic, of course. And we're gonna review the movie The Invention of Lying. And The Invention of Lying, he touches in the subject of the religion, but it talks about more things. Just before we get started, please leave my video a like, subscribe my channel, leave me a comment. It means a lot to me. The Invention of Lying, it's a rom-com of 2009 and is co-directed and co-written by Ricky Gervais. I think that's how you pronounce, right? And Matthew Robinson. I decided to pick this movie because I love it. I'm a huge fan of this movie because it comes with such a simple propose, but it touches in a lot of subjects that are complicated, that are complex. I think the movie did that in a very clever way, but this movie is not perfect. I know this is not Oscar winning movie. It's not like a masterpiece, okay? It's not like a Tarantino movie or whatever, but I think it's a very funny movie. So I'm gonna take the elephant in the room, and at least for me, that's how I feel when I talk about this, because we have a saying in my country. I don't know if you say the same in yours, but over here we say there is a few topics that you should never talk about, and they are football, politics, and religion. And today we're gonna talk about religion. So that makes me a little anxious, just because religion is something that people get very emotional and it sparks a lot of feelings. But you know what? There is people online saying every kind of bullshit, and I came in peace. I just want to give my opinion. I don't want to offend anyone. If you are a religious person, if you think it helps you, it's good for you, good. I consider myself atheist, and I am a big fan of Ricky Gervais because he is atheist, and so he does a lot of comedy with religion, and I like it. And pretty much my take on religion is very similar to his. If you watch an interview of him talking about religion, like 99% of the things he's gonna say, I'm going to agree. I think very similar to him, and I think that's why I like the movie so much. I can share my opinion just like any other person online, and there is people saying that the earth is flat and the president is a lizard and all of that kind of crazy theories. So I think it's fine if I just share my point. The movie The Invention of Lying, it starts in a very small town in the United States, and it's a very peaceful town, very quiet, nothing really special happens. Our main character is Mark Bellinson, that is played by Ricky Gervais. And Mark is just a typical guy, very ordinary guy, and he's kind of a loser. This is not me saying, this is Mark saying in the movie. Okay, so this is in the script. It says that he is in his 40s and is miserable. He doesn't have anyone, he doesn't have a partner, he's not successful in his way of seeing his life because he's probably gonna get fired from his job. The girl that he just have a date and enjoy the company, she doesn't want anything else to do with him. Gonna be fired. He doesn't have a lot of money. His mother is already quite old. He needs lens. He's a loser. And in the rest of the characters in the movie, they also think he's a loser, so I guess he's a loser. And I think that difference, that world from our world, it's very simple to explain. Can explain in a sentence, and that's that nobody in this world can lie. Lie doesn't exist. It's not even a word for that. Like ability that the human beings on this planet develop, didn't have, didn't born with. Everything is very similar to us. It's obviously a very common Western city, American city, but yeah, nobody in the world can lie. And that's obviously that affects some things. In a movie, you don't have a nursing home is called the place that old people go out for Pepsi. It's like Pepsi, where you drink when you don't have Coke. And you often said this movie, it's a lot of satire, a lot of irony. That's the kind of humor I like. Mark, you just said, he has this neighbor that is played by Jonah Hill. Just go on the elevator, and when he finds his neighbor, he just says, yeah, I'm thinking about killing myself. Mark obviously is not happy, he's a loser, no perspectives for him, and he just find out that he's gonna be evicted by the landlord. He needs $800, and that's when the movie starts to develop a little more, because the first minute is just for us to understand this world, what kind of world the characters live, and for us to know a little about Mark and his life. And then story actually starts to roll after a particularly incident. The landlord says to Mark, hey, you have to pay me the rent, or you need to leave. And the rent is $800. Mark doesn't have $800, so he goes to the bank. He knows that he only has like $300. He's going to withdraw the money. Something happens when he goes to the bank. The lady says, hey, our system is down. My computer is not working, so I cannot see in the system how much money do you have. Can you please tell me how much money you have so I can give it to you? The camera zooms into Mark's brain, and something sparks, something flashes in his brain, and he just, for the first time in humanity, says the first lie. He answers $800. Mark, he pretty much discovers something amazing. Then the lady says, okay, sir, oh, our system is working. Now I can properly see your account. Oh, here says he only has $300, but you, sir, said you have $800. Oh, it must be a problem with your system. Here, sir, take the money. And the lady just gives Mark the money. Mark goes to the landlord, he pays the rent, and he goes to his place, and he just thinks of what happened. So Mark just invents the first human being saying a lie, and he started taking advantage of that, because he realized that people just going to believe anything he says, because nobody knows what is a lie. He got back his job, he's promoted, he starts to make a lot of money, but then something happens, and that's his mother is very ill, and she doesn't have a lot of time. The people from the nursing home call Mark, and he says, hey, your mom, she's not fine, she's not gonna last the night, maybe you should come and see her. Mark goes, and he sees his mother, and his mother tells him, I'm so scared, I don't want to die. There is just emptiness of nothing and darkness. I don't want to go, Mark. I'm so scared. And Mark, he's so sad, and he just wanted to comfort his mother. So he says, listen, mother, you're not going to that horrible place. You're going to an amazing, wonderful place. Everyone you ever loved is going to be there. And there is only happiness and joy and love in this wonderful place that you are going. Pretty much Mark just invented the heaven. That's what it is. And that's something that I still didn't touch. I still didn't told you. But pretty much in this world, and I want you to listen to me carefully, in this world that humans cannot lie, there is no religion. There is no religions in general. There is not Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism. There is not a word for religion. There is not a word for God. Since it's no religion, there is no heaven. And that's what Mark describes to her. That was our Christian heaven. I think it's important to notice that that's so clever, that's so simple. I think Ricky pushes it. I can see why it causes so many controversial, because I know why some people don't like him. There is a lot of religious people that think this is offensive and this kind of stuff, and that is rude. You shouldn't make jokes about religion, sacred thing, but I love it. I think Ricky Gervais doesn't want to cause controversial moments. I think he's not doing for the polemic we talk about. He's doing because he wants people to think and to reflect and to maybe cause some doubts. And that's actually my reason as well to do this video. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I really don't like religion. And I'm gonna explain, let me explain the word religion. For me, it has a bad connotation. I'm not talking about one specific religion. I think they all suck. Yeah, I'm an atheist. I want you to think, to reflect. And this movie is so good because it's so simple. Look at this stuff that Ricky is putting to people's beliefs. Didn't have the ability to lie, there wouldn't be a religion. That's more than just religion. That's very philosophical. And so Mark tells this to his mother, and the nurses and the doctor overheard him, and they were like, "Oh my God, what the hell? Do you know what happened after life? How do you know these things? Tell us more, tell us more." Because yeah, everyone just believes in everything that he says. Everyone's just gonna believe it. Mark goes home and is very depressed. Of course, his mother just died. Then he opens the door of his house, and there is a huge crowd in front of his house. Reporters, journalists, everyone wants to talk to him because apparently he knows what happened after life. And Mark stress out a little bit because it's a lie. He knows he made it up, but people have a lot of questions. There is a scene, there is a montage in the movie before this moment that he find out that by lying he can help a lot of people. In a montage, you don't hear what Mark says to the people that he found on the street, but you can see that is telling something, that they start laughing, they smile, a couple, they got back together. So Mark starts to think, what I'm gonna tell everyone. He starts to write it down. One of his friends, he brought pizza because Mark couldn't work with the empty stomach. And after Mark write down everything that he wanted to say, he decided that the piece of paper is not the best option. So he write down on pizza boxes, and he just opens the door, comes out, and he has those two pieces of boxes. So pretty much he's mocking, imitating Moses and the Ten Commandments. And I think it's so fun. I love this kind of humor. I think it's so fun. It's so clever. He starts to tell everyone there is a man in the sky. There is a man in the sky that controls everything. He is responsible for everything that happens to you, the good things and the bad things. There is no word, like I said, for God, that he's called a man in the sky. People have a lot of questions. Mark say that in his afterlife, everyone is gonna get a mansion. There is gonna be free ice cream. You can enter in this good place after you die if you are a good person, or if you only do like three bad things in your life. You can only do three bad things, and everyone believes him. So pretty much Mark just invented religion, and I think it's important again and to see what Gervais was doing, because his invention, it didn't start as a bad thing. It was not with the purpose of controlling or manipulating. It was out of compassion and love for his mother. That's how all of this started. And Mark is a good guy. He wants to help people, and he thinks that that is what he's doing. That's very powerful. My grandma is not always going to be the best. Sorry, guys. The film shows how the idea of the afterlife can bring comfort, but also how it can be manipulated for control and fear. It doesn't just criticize religion, it go after dogmatic thinking itself. It shows how lying gave birth to art, to hope, to the stories we tell to make sense of our pain. And this is a side note. I know that probably most of you don't think like that, but I found some people that think like that, so I think I'm gonna address that. When I was in London, I met a lot of religious people. I met a lot of different people, a lot of different point of views, a lot of religions, a lot of ethnicity. I heard them saying, especially from a Brazilian group that I met, they often told me, hey, you're not religious, so you cannot talk about this or you cannot argue against this. And that for me is just ridiculous. I don't want to offend them, but that's stupidity. Of course, I can have an opinion about religion, and I mean, is a free country, free expression for everyone, right? No, and saying that only religious people can talk about religion or criticize religion is the same as only smokers can advertise for the dangers of smoking. Yeah, doesn't make any sense. I want to be perfectly clear that, again, I grew up in Portugal, a very traditional country. We are Catholic. I used to go to Sunday classes, did the little parties that we do when you are in a church and you go to these Sunday classes. I don't know how to say in English. Communion. That's how we say. That's a literal translation, how we call it in Portugal. But I don't know if it's like that. But yeah, first communion, things like that. But then what happened? It was that I grow up. And I start questioning a lot of things. A lot of things didn't make sense to me, even when I was a child. But when I grow up, especially in my teenage years, it was when I stop and I think about it. In the beginning, I became like agnostic, so I couldn't say there was or there wasn't a God. But after I get older, more critic about things, and I like to be logic. I became an atheist. I will not say that I despise religion because a lot of things can bring the best in you. Art, for example, people that become artists, singers, dancers, performers, painters, the art brought the best in them or can bring the best in them. A lot of things can bring the best in you. A talent that you have, a person that you know, like a boyfriend or a best friend, can bring the best in you. And religion, I think it can also bring the best in you for some people. But I think more often than not, it doesn't. Criticism, when thoughtful and well argued, doesn't require belief. It requires reasoning, evidence, and ethics. Many of the most powerful critics of religion through history came from outside: philosophers, scientists, writers, people who simply choose not to believe. And that's perfectly fine for me not to believe. That's another thing that I realized when I say that I didn't believe a God. It's harder to concept in their brains. I think it's easier for them. You believe in a different God that they are aware there is a lot of religion, but saying that you don't believe in any God, there is nothing beyond us, that is no one supervises, there is no father figure taking care of us. It's hard to conceive in our minds. And but for me, that's the reality. The idea that can't criticize because you don't believe is nothing more than a shield, a way to protect certain beliefs from being questioned. Ideas must be open to criticism. And if there's one thing freedom of speech guarantees, is that the right to question powerful institutions, especially those that influence governments, education, medical decisions, or human rights. And I'm talking about the church in this specific case. You have 100% every right to criticize. Moving a little bit far from the review of the movie, for me, it's like, do you ever watch Matrix? So Matrix was a movie. There is this very famous scene. Then the main character, he has to decide what he should take, the blue pill or the red pill. And the blue pill in the movie, you stay in the same place. The main character will just keep going with his life, or he can choose the red pill. And the red pill gives him knowledge, gives him the truth. But then Morpheus, the guy that introducing these pills to Neo, the main character, he advises him and tells him, listen, if you take the red pill, you never come back. And if you ever watch the movie, you know what it's about. So Matrix happens in a future when the machines take over and humans fuel the machine. The Matrix is like a system where humans are captured. They are putting things in your brain. You think you are living in the real world and things happen to you, but truly you are encapsulated, and it's just the matrix putting things in your brain. And Neo decides to take the red pill and he finds out the truth. That is powerful scene in this movie is like when Neo wakes up in a reality outside of the matrix, he says something like, my eyes are hurting. And I think it was Trinity. She said, well, that's because it's the first time they are open. Very well written. And for me, the analogy that I'm doing here is like the blue pill is the people that believe in religion. It gives them comfort and stability because, like I said, it's a father figure, God, taking care of us, something beyond us and higher than us, looking at us and protecting us, loving us. It's hard to believe that when you die, you just die. They are hard concepts. It's hard to believe that there's no actually reason for life, that we are just living. It's hard to believe that, but for me, that's the truth. The red pill represents the truth, this painful truth. The truth, it's harsh a lot of times and lies suits. For me, people can do two choices, the blue pill or the red pill. And I took the red pill because I prefer to live in reality, even that is not so romantic or prettier, nicer, comfortable. It's the reality. I think this analogy is brutally real. The blue pill represents the comfort of illusion that prevents us from dealing with complexity or pain of the world. And the red pill, the stock of lucidity, the weight of knowing too much, the abandonment of convenience innocence. This is exactly that the invention of lie makes us feel, in my opinion, the way that true, that sustains society, including religion, can be beautiful lies carefully told to keep everything going. The irony? Sometimes even those who have taken the red pill miss the blue pill. There is also a scene in this movie, in Matrix, where there is a character and he's one of the awakened, the ones who live outside of the matrix of know what's actually going on. And his name is Cypher, and he took the red pill, but now he regretted, and he becomes the antagonist in the last moments of the movie. He becomes like the bad guy because he wants to come back to the matrix, and he wants to forget that he knows the truth. What more can I say? Played by Joe Pantoliano. After waking up to the harsh reality outside the matrix, decides he rather go back to illusion. There is a powerful scene when he's eating a steak with Agent Smith, and he says, I know this steak isn't real. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the matrix is telling my brain that it's juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realized? Ignorance is a bless. And I think a lot of people think like that. But I think knowledge in the end of the day is always the best option. Logic is always the best option. Science is the best option. And Cypher represents that very human intention, the desire to return to a comfortable lie even after seeing the truth. He trades freedom for comfort, reality for illusion. Is a perfect metaphor for religion, politics, and consumerism. Sometimes the truth is so raw, so uncomfortable that life feels like a relief. And that's why the invention of lying taps into the idea that many of the stories we live by, including religious ones, may be beautiful fiction we choose to believe because they make life bearable. The scene where Mark comforts his dying mother seemed like a spontaneous act, but it reveals something essential. Religion often emerges as an emotional response to human suffering. Mark doesn't lie to manipulate. He lies because he wants to erase the pain of someone he loves. And that's how much of faith begins. Not as a scheme for power, but a desperate attempt to make sense of the unknown, to soften the fear of death, to make pain bearable. At its core, the film suggests that religion can be born not out of malice, but out of empathy. And that makes the critic even more powerful because it shows how even good intentions can give rise to systems that take on a life of their own and then being used to control, divide, or silence. What's most provocative is that the film doesn't offer easy answers. It leaves us with a question. If a truth destroys the comfort of millions, it's always worth telling? Yeah, the truth stands always, but I can see that it's not just so black and white like that. Like the scene where Marx is seeing his mother dying, that's very powerful. I cannot judge anyone for try to relieve the pain. A lot of times when someone that we love is sick, we cannot do anything but praying. That's what religious people do, and they feel like they are not completely putable. They are doing something. They are talking to God. They are praying. They are begging to the higher power to save this person that they love. The paradox. That's the most uncomfortable truth the film offers. That even lies born from empathy can become systems of belief and eventually systems of control. I don't believe in God. And yes, I am critical of organized religion. But I understand why. I understand that for many people, belief isn't about power or dogma. It's about survival, emotional survival. People argue that the film is poor written, passed very under the radar. It was not a flop, but it was not a success as well. And the reviews, they are mixed, but I think they are slightly go more to the bad side. Most reviews that I saw, they were not talking good things about the movie. Like I said in the beginning of the movie, this is not an Oscar movie, okay? This is not amazing, well written story. This is not amazing, a masterpiece. This is not Citizen Kane, but I think the movie, it's clever, it's funny, it's ironic, and I think this is not because I'm an atheist. I do think a lot of atheists didn't like the movie. That's 100% fair. I saw some religious movies that I like. You can separate both. You should separate both. I like to watch a lot of movies that tell biblical stories. I think they are very interesting. I can separate both. And for me, that's it. That's a story. For you, it's a reality and absolutely true. For me, it's just a story. It's a good movie if it's well written. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think fair enough for a lot of points that people point to finger at this movie. I do agree with a lot of the criticism, but I think for a lot of people as well, it's not just about the script. It's a little deeper than that. People argue that the film is poorly written, but most of the time, I think they just don't like the critic of religion. They just don't want to say out loud. And I think I'm far from being alone on thinking like that. Many negative reviews of The Invention of Lying focus on things like romantic subplot, but beneath that, there is a deeper discomfort that rarely gets named. The film's direct challenge to religious belief. It presents the idea of God has and the afterlife as a human invention. And for many, that's getting punched in the stomach. Instead of saying, this offends my faith, it's easier to say the script is weak or the story doesn't work. It's a way to reject the message without confronting it. Some critics even acknowledge that this might be the first mainstream comedy with an openly atheist perspective. And that alone makes it unsettling for audience used to seeing religion treated with reverence on screen. Because yeah, let's not deny that for centuries and centuries, since the Roman Empire fell, the church, I'm talking about especially about Europe because that's where I'm from, but the church took this role and the church controlled the populations for thousands of years, and we live in a time that we are finally free. We can say what we want. We can acknowledge that maybe there are some flaws in a lot of things. We can have a critical thinking about everything, including religion, and for thousands of years that was not possible. So I definitely think we should take that to our advantage and talk about these topics and think about this and actually give them a proper thought. What do you believe? Because most of the time you just believe in what the majority in your country believes or in your family believes. You know, you need to be critical about it. I give this movie maybe a 7 out of 10. I recommend that you watch this movie. I just want to point this out between Mark, the main character, and love interest, and is that she's so superficial and she just wants perfect genetic match to have kids with. So pretty much she wants like a very handsome guy, tall, strong, nice jaw or whatever, so he can give the best genes to her kids. That is the little things where I see that Ricky Gervais for sure could write this script. I think most of the times, if you are atheist, you're gonna be a little more chirurgical and clean, a more scientific point of view. What I think is funny is that she said that he's a loser and is shorter and is fat. They could pick so many issues why she didn't want to be with him, but she was so scientifically about it. Do you know what I mean? She was thinking in a very almost primitive way, and I think this is a touch of Gervais. And this is not completely wrong. You know why men prefer young, attractive women? Because consciously, that means at least back she was more fertile and she could be a better carrier for his kids. And women tend to prefer big men, large shoulders, tall men, because that represents strength and protection. Even though there is a lot of thinking in us still from that time, you know, our more primitive instincts. It was a nice touch. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you like this video. I hope you don't hate me by now, but I'm giving my opinion. That's all I am doing. Shout out to this movie because I really enjoy it, and it's not very well known. And I think it's because such in his topic it's about religion, and religion comes from a lie. Thank you so much. If you are still here with me in the end of this video, it means a lot to me. Please don't forget to subscribe and to like. Leave me a comment, tell me what you want me to talk, and that's it. Bye. Thank you.